In the eyes of the living, she's a hot blonde hottie with a hot body, and in the eyes of the dead, he's an 18th century cowboy's uncle.
Come on, boy. How you come on? Just 'cause I'm the only one willing to leave the line.
Today is the first day a man dies. Uncle Cowboys is none other than his new partner, and the place where they are. Surprisingly, it's the legendary Underworld Police Department. He himself even became an Underworld police officer with an immortal body. The man's name is Nick. 3 days ago, he was an ordinary police officer, but on the way to a mission, he was betrayed because he didn't want to work with his partner to steal the stolen goods. He was shot several times and fell from a height and died instantly, but he didn't expect to open his eyes again the next second. He found that everything around him had long since come to a standstill, as if what just happened had nothing to do with him. When he walked out of the warehouse, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared in the sky. Immediately afterward, his body began to float upwards uncontrollably. It was soon sucked into the vortex, arriving at a wormhole-like mysterious space. Looking from afar, there were countless holes here, and there were constantly people being sucked into the depths of the space along with him. This made him feel shocked. However, the next second, the woman told Nick, "This is the legendary Underworld police station. Now he has only two choices. One is to reincarnate, continue to be an ordinary person. The other is to become a police officer in the Underworld, returning to Earth again to capture those horrible evil spirits." Hearing that there is still a chance to go back for revenge, Nick did not even think about it and agreed directly. The next second, the brand suddenly appeared out of thin air, and under the woman's introduction, he met his new partner. Cowboys who died in the 19th century have been policemen for hundreds of years. Of course, will not put Nick the newcomer in the eye, but forced by the woman's order, he could only lead Nick into the teleportation device, and with the sound of the toilet flashing, the two then appeared in a store on Earth. For Nick, the first thing to do when returning to Earth was of course to go to his own funeral. At the sight of that murderer, the moment he embraced his wife, Nick could no longer resist rushing up. But how could he not expect? The wife actually said she didn't recognize herself. Once co-workers even took her for madman. Nick could only watch as Bobby, the murderer, left with his wife in the car. Why didn't his wife recognize him? Nick desperately wants to ask a question. Only then did Cowboys tell Nick the truth. The Underworld police can't let the living see them, so the police department gave them another identity. Nick was a grandpa in his 70s. Cowboys was a hot blonde. It felt unfair though, but as a newcomer Nick didn't say much, because they had business to do next. Soon the two walked towards a building, and inside lives a horrible evil spirit. The evil spirit emits a shadowy aura that slowly devours the life around it. Anything they touch becomes old. That's why the room where it lives is easy to find. The two knocked on the door of the room. Soon the door of the room slowly opened. One look at the man's appearance. It was known that he had just escaped from prison not long ago. In order not to scare the snakes, the Cowboys hurriedly flashed their identity of the health bureau, smoothly walked onto the room. But in the face of Cowboys' interrogation, the evil spirit was calm and dead serious. Cowboys, on the other hand, did not panic and took out a covered rice. In front of the face of the evil spirit began to eat. The evil spirit began to tremble. It didn't take long for it to show its original form. However, Nick was handcuffing him. The other person seized the opportunity to knock over. Then the evil spirit picked up a carton of milk ready to escape. But by the reaction of Nick handcuffed, the evil spirit saw this and directly tore off his own arm and turned to run, poured the nuggets in the milk carton into his mouth, and jumped out of the window. Nick hurriedly poked out the window to check, only to see the evil spirit fall downstairs after being hit. But evil spirits have the same immortality on Earth. It can only be killed by a special bullet to the head. Arriving Cowboys rushed to Nick without thinking, and jumped with him. The rookie cop's first day on the job just got pushed down the stairs by his partner. Cowboys stepped on Nick and asked him if it was exciting. Relax. I thought they would be broken into pieces by the fall, but I didn't expect that. They were not only unharmed, they even managed to catch the criminals. It turned out that they were immortal policemen from the Underworld. They came to Earth to catch the evil spirits in front of them. Nick went up and gave them a beating. The evil spirit was beaten and spat out a few mysterious gold nuggets. Then it was killed by Cowboys with one shot, but Nick suddenly froze in place. These gold nuggets seemed like he had seen them somewhere, so after he sent the gold nuggets back to the police station, then he pulled Cowboys to continue the investigation. Soon found Cowboys' informant. Nick asked the other party if he recognized this kind of gold, but the other party said he had never seen. Nick had no choice but to give him the gold, let him back to help him ask. However, Nick two people just left. The informant showed a smug expression, but he did not know that Nick had long seen the story. He just wanted to put a long line to catch a big fish. Soon a red sports car drove by. The visitor turned out to be Bobby, Nick's partner in life. He was seen driving away after getting the nuggets from the man in red. Nick and Cowboys rushed to follow. Bobby was seen coming to Nick's wife's house. It turns out that during Nick's lifetime, there had been a bag of similar gold nuggets seized. It was buried in the backyard of their house. Bobby, who got the gold nuggets, turned around and went to the airport. It didn't take long for a dashing fat man to show up. Seeing the two men finish the handover, Nick and Cowboys rushed forward to control the fat man, bringing him into a cold room with the intention of interrogating him properly. But they didn't expect the man to not only not panic at all. Instead, he arrogantly said to the police, he has long been tired of hiding. Then the fat man put his head on Nick's hand and inhaled a few breaths. Then he began to transform and provoke Nick that this is what they forced him to do. Soon, the man turned into a big fat man of more than 800 pounds. Picking up the safe, he began to run away frantically. Nick and Cowboys were in hot pursuit behind them, who knew that although the evil spirit was huge, but it still has a robust pace. Seeing this, Cowboys hurriedly shot a flying hook. It hit the fat man right in the ass. He originally wanted to drag the fat man down, but he was dragged around by the fat man. Nick hurriedly pulled out his gun and prepared to shoot, but the sedan came head-on. By the time Nick stood up drowsily, Hottie had already rushed into a building, jumped into the elevator shaft. Nick, who arrived, immediately broke the elevator rope. The elevator carried the three people all the way up. It eventually broke through the roof of the building, smashed down hard, and wait until Nick out of the elevator. Hottie has long escaped. Although the safe was successfully retrieved by Nick, but he and Cowboy still got a scolding from their boss because of this action of theirs caused the evil spirits to be completely exposed on Earth. According to the police department regulations, they must be fired, and being fired from the police department in the underworld, it means that the two will completely disappear. However, just at this time, the police department senior management suddenly issued a notice. The gold nugget they brought back is actually an ancient artifact. Once the nugget is assembled, it will reverse the portal from the underworld to the Earth, causing a large number of evil spirits to descend, turning the Earth into an endless purgatory. So Nick and Cowboys defied the police. They returned to Earth to investigate, because the cause of the series of events is Nick's former partner Bobby felt that the police department received a mysterious iron block, but it did not attract the attention of the policewoman. Casually threw it into the side of the evidence box, but did not expect the next second happen bizarre things. Two pieces of iron suddenly began to attract each other. Nick saw this and felt that something was wrong. The two pieces of iron turned into an iron ball. A huge amount of energy knocked the Cowboys to the ground. Only a boundary suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Everyone was frozen in place. It was only possible to move slowly at a multiplier of 0.1, but the evil spirits were able to remain unaffected. Rushed into the government room and grabbed all the gold. Nick tried his best to stop it, but he could only watch as the evil spirit walked onto the teleportation device. The moment of truth. Cowboys shot the iron ball, but in the end, it was still too late. It turns out that just now, Nick and Cowboys went to capture Bobby, forcing her to take off the coins on her body that hid her death aura. Bobby did not resist. A magical scene happened immediately afterward. Everything around her suddenly began to change. The walls began to peel away. The floor began to crack a seam. Even the entire house was torn in half. The powerful aura of death made the two feel very uneasy, and so, the Cowboys then rushed to find the huge gold nugget that Bobby had hidden, bringing them back to the police station successfully, catching the culprits so smoothly, thinking with my toes. I knew it was a conspiracy. Sure enough, the Cowboys found half a piece of iron ball when they searched their bodies. That's how the beginning happened. Eventually the evil spirits managed to escape, only to see that they were clearly divided. One part was responsible for assembling the artifacts. The other part was responsible for stalling the underworld police. Suddenly a big guy fell from the sky, picking up a Gatling. He began to sweep wildly. The cops could only be cornered. However, it took no more than 3 seconds. It didn't take long for the Gatling to jam. Now the cops had plenty of time to prepare. Cowboys and Nick made a handsome appearance. Yet again, he stood still and didn't move. If you think this is him being handsome, that would be a big mistake. A Cowboy's from the 18th century. How could he make such a cheap mistake at this time? At this time, the sky suddenly began to blow furiously. A terrifying vortex suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It seemed like that ancient artifact was about to be completed. The two Nicks hurriedly drove, rushing to the gate where the artifact was located. Although the evil spirits had been chasing them, but they still couldn't stop the determination of the two. They soon got rid of the evil spirits behind them. At this time, the artifact had already been assembled. The huge vortex in the sky was about to form, but Nick, who rushed to the scene, couldn't expect it. Bobby was going to sacrifice his wife to the artifact. Nick wanted to stop Bobby, but Bobby directly sacrificed Nick's wife. A big battle is about to start. Nick and the Cowboys were together. They beat the evil spirits to death, but they didn't notice. Nick's wife's blood was slowly flowing towards the artifact. Immediately after that, a golden lightning bolt shot straight into the sky. The passageway connecting to the underworld was completely reversed. The wife was even dying from blood loss. Concerned, Nick was finally attacked by Bobby. On the other side, the Cowboys tried their best to dismantle the artifact. However, they were never able to do so. At this time, the big car above his head suddenly caught his attention, so he hurriedly picked up the rope on the ground, put the other end on the big car, then desperately yanked it down. But by now a large number of evil spirits had begun to flood the earth. Nick could only take a beating while urging Cowboys used all his strength to tug on the rope. Finally, under his efforts, the car was pulled down and smashed into the artifact. The artifact was destroyed. The evil spirits in the passageway were also sucked back to the underworld again. The crisis was finally over, but Nick's wife also lost her life. The same as when Nick died, the scene around them instantly stood still. Their end seems to be predestined. The Cowboys, who were just about to get up, also lay back down, leaving the last time for Nick and his wife. But when his wife opened her eyes again, actually found himself lying in a hospital bed. The original because Nick saved the world. The boss agreed to resurrect his wife. See his wife safe and sound. Nick only then feel relieved to leave. And Cowboys together again return to Earth. Continue to maintain peace between the underworld and the Earth. Cowboys also asked for a new identity for Nick. This can make Nick happy. However, after seeing what the identity looks like, Nick couldn't stop smiling. Are you kidding me?
Oh, you got it.